Investigations that cross borders. Stories that hold power to account. Voices that ignite change. Every year, the Investigative Journalism for Europe Fund shines a spotlight on fearless transnational reporting. Stories that challenge and inspire. Stories that resonate far and wide. An independent jury selects the winners. Work that is daring, collaborative, transformative. More than just an award, a tribute to the courage, creativity, and collaboration driving the most ambitious watchdog journalism. This is the IJ4EU Impact Award.
Good evening, and welcome to the 2025 IJ4EU Impact Awards. These are, of course, the annual awards of the Investigative Journalism for Europe program, or IJ4EU, which is all about supporting cross-border investigative journalism as a public good. I'm Timothy Large from the International Press Institute in Vienna, and I have the pleasure of managing the consortium of organizations that run IJ4EU. So our partners are the European Journalism Centre, the European Centre for Press and Media Freedom, and Arena for Journalism in Europe. Now, on behalf of the consortium, I would like to extend a sincere word of thanks to iMEdD for hosting not only these awards tonight, but also our annual IJ4EU Uncovered conference, which took place in the auditorium yesterday. It was a really interesting day, and we really appreciate all the support we had. And it also explains why there are so many IJ4EU grantees here today. Perhaps some of them are in the audience now. It would be very interesting to see, if you're an IJ4EU grantee, past or present, perhaps you could stand up to see if any are here. Okay, we have quite a few, actually. Quite a few. I'm sure a few more are milling around the place. Well, salute to all of you, and I will say that we are proud of the fact that over the last few years we've been able to channel millions of euros of public and philanthropic money into high-quality investigative journalism on really important subjects, along with legal support and other forms of support. That's what IJ4EU is all about. And these awards celebrate that kind of journalism. I'm also very happy to make an announcement. That announcement is that just 3 days ago, we signed a contract with the European Commission for another 2 years of IJ4EU. So for 2026 and 2027, IJ4EU will be back with more funding and more support. Applications will open in early 2026. So if you have an idea for a story, a cross-border story, please do apply in early 2026. Okay, so let's get to the awards. Now, I should stress that these awards, which of course celebrate cross-border journalism, you don't have to be associated with IJ4EU to be honored here tonight. Any teams that do cross-border journalism who are eligible can be nominated for these awards. You don't have to be anything to do with IJ4EU. And of course, an independent jury selects all the winners. So with that being said, allow me to hand over to my colleague Deniz, who is, of course, with the European Centre for Press and Media Freedom, which runs these awards on behalf of the IJ4EU consortium. And she will be your host tonight. So Deniz, thank you for all your hard work, and over to you.
Thank you, Tim. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the IJ4EU Impact Award Ceremony. Tim has already introduced me, but once again, I am Deniz Bozkurt. I work for the European Centre for Press and Media Freedom, and I manage the IJ4EU Impact Award, which is quite an honor. And I will be the moderator tonight. And I am quite excited, and I guess it's pretty obvious. this just serves for me to relax a little bit by just repeating it. Yeah. You're not making it better. Well, this is my third time presenting the IJ4EU Impact Award, so one would assume that I would get used to. But the feeling and the excitement does not get old. Every year it's thrilling and very, very humbling to share the stage with not only the winners who are the minds and the brave journalists behind impressive investigations, but also an impressive jury and, of course, my colleagues, whom I really admire. It's an honor to stand here and celebrate what cross-border journalism can achieve, the impact. And it's also an honor to be here, not just to moderate, but to be here as the person who got to work with the nominations for several weeks during the pre-evaluation process of the nominations. I had my brilliant students, 23 young people, who helped me go through an evaluation process at the Leipzig University. I am very, very thankful to them. We got to spend weeks with the best examples of cross-border investigations in Europe, which was exhilarating, intimidating, but most of all it was inspiring. I could see the inspiration in my students' eyes, and I could, of course, feel it myself. And tonight, we finally get to celebrate that inspiration. IJ4EU Impact Award has been around since 2021, and since then it's been awarded to 16 teams, big and small, from Daphne project in 2021 to Border Graves investigation last year. The award was created to celebrate the courage, creativity, and collaboration behind Europe's most ambitious investigations. Every year, journalists across borders dig into stories that no single newsroom can achieve alone. And every year, we are reminded, impact is a tricky word. So I got to ask myself and my students, what is impact? What do we mean by it? The change a story achieves? The change that we hope that it will achieve? Because let's be real, some of the most powerful journalism is often met with institutional indifference at best. But the work still carries weight. Informing the public has an impact. Recording human rights violations is impact. Creating a historical record for the future is impact. Even if it takes an entire generation for the value of journalism to be understood. Journalism shapes the world, whether or not power listens. So this year we've received 36 nominations from across Europe and beyond. Dozens of teams representing 58 countries, all EU countries included. Students at Leipzig University conducted a pre-evaluation and created a shortlist. Then our independent jury gathered for long discussions and difficult decisions. And what a jury. Celebrated journalists, editors, defenders of media freedom, people who know the craft, the risks, and the stakes. Chaired by dearest Jill Phillips, who cannot be with us in Athens tonight, but whose wisdom and dedication guided the process so beautifully. So tonight our task is clear: to celebrate fearless journalism, to shine a light on the finalists, and of course the winners. And to recognize the incredible people who make this work possible. The independent jury who devoted their hours to the difficult decision. The nominees whose investigations inspire us. and our wonderful hosts here at iMEdD International Journalism Forum for welcoming us in Athens for the second time in a row. And now the moment is almost here. The teams we will soon celebrate as 3 equal winners and 1 recipient of honorable mention have already shown us what fearless cross-border journalism can achieve. But before the trophies are handed in, let us remember the runner-ups for the process. Here are the finalists of the IJ4EU Impact Award 2025.
10 shortlisted nominations, 3 prizes for impact. The IJ4EU Impact Awards celebrate the best of Europe's cross-border watchdog reporting. Here are the finalists. The Baku Connection. Imprisoned reporters from Abzas Media sent a call. Continue our work. 15 outlets, led by Forbidden Stories, answered. They exposed corruption, environmental abuses, and EU funds feeding Azerbaijan's prison system. They revealed election rigging and traced embezzled millions through Europe's financial hubs. Deadly prices. Why do life-saving medicines stay out of reach? Investigate Europe and its partners uncovered how Big Pharma uses secrecy, patents, and lobbying to keep costs high. A cross-border expose demanding answers from a system that puts shareholders before lives. The Gaza Project. In Gaza, press vests are the target. 50 reporters from 13 newsrooms investigated nearly 100 cases of media workers killed or injured. Unable to enter Gaza, they traced bullets, mapped GPS data, and consulted experts. Their findings reveal a chilling pattern of attacks challenging official denials. How an EU-funded security force helped Senegal crush democracy protests. It was meant to fight border crime, but it turned its weapons inward. Built with European money, it was a security force that helped crush democracy protests in Senegal. Reporters Andrei Popoviciu and Jose Bautista exposed how EU funds undermine the very values Brussels claims to defend. Kremlin leaks. 17 reporters, 7 countries, 1 explosive leak. The Kremlin's propaganda machine laid bare, tracking citizens online from birth to death, staging fake civic movements, even using the Russian Red Cross in war propaganda. Documents showed deported Ukrainian children pushed into military camps. Passport Gate. New passports, same oligarch. The Belarusian Investigative Center and 15min.lt revealed how Viktor Chevtsov, Lukashenko's money man, profits from passport monopolies. The trail led to Lithuania, where opposition leaders unknowingly partnered with Chevtsov-linked firms to create the new Belarus passport. Poison PR. Lighthouse Reports and its partners uncovered how Washington-funded operatives defended pesticides, undermined Europe's Green Deal, and smeared scientists. Private data from UN experts to campaigners was shared in exclusive circles. A covert influence operation from Kenya to Brussels with global stakes for public health. Say privet. Just say hi. That was the key into a Wagner-linked Telegram channel. Inside, reporters found a recruitment pipeline luring men into sabotage, espionage, even murder, all paid in crypto. Shady green finance. Green bonds, real climate action or clever deception? Reporters Stefano Valentino and Giorgio Michalopoulos revealed how fossil fuel, aviation, fashion, and even arms industries exploited loopholes to cash in. No binding rules. Companies pocket green money. Business carries on as usual. With Europe's support, North African nations push immigrants into the desert. Tens of thousands of migrants abandoned in the desert. EU-provided vehicles, EU-funded surveillance, EU cash. 8 media outlets teamed up to track expulsions in Morocco, Mauritania, and Tunisia. Men, women, and children left to die of hunger, heat, or violence. 10 investigations, 10 powerful examples of why cross-border journalism matters. An independent jury makes the call, honoring the works that stand out for their courage, collaboration, and impact.
And now it's time for the big moment to reveal tonight's honors. The difficult decisions were made by our independent jury, 5 people who know the craft, the risks, and the stakes. They also know how to make impossible choices between stories that all deserve recognition. First, I'm delighted to invite Kolja to stage. Kolja is the founder and the CEO of LuckyNet. He is one of those rare people who can combine technical expertise with activism. He reminds us that digital safety is not a luxury, but foundation of free expression. Kolja, please share with us the recipients of the honorable mention today.
First, I want to thank you for having me in the jury and to be here this evening. I hope everyone is still awake. I mean, it looks like, good. So my part of the jury is to present the honorable mention today. And of course, to make sure that if you haven't read it yet, to read it. Because the honorable mention is the Al Jazeera and Pro Causa piece, How an EU-funded security force helped Senegal crush democracy protests.
And earning an honorable mention in the 2025 IJ4EU Impact Award, How an EU-funded security force helped Senegal crush democracy protests. It was meant to fight border crime, but it turned its weapons inward. Built with European money, it was a security force that helped crush democracy protests in Senegal. Dozens killed, many jailed. Reporters Andrei Popoviciu and José Bautista exposed how EU funds undermine the very values Brussels claims to defend. A stark look at how the EU shapes events beyond its borders.
So, who has read it? Oh, that's good, that's good. So, what does the story has for me as a reader? Well, the story has everything I would look for. A leak of secret documents, cross-border investigations, of course, involving large EU funds, spent on shady things, embezzled money, and the best part of it, always corruption. So, I would quote a small piece out of the text that explains how the corruption was described by an interviewed person, which stuck with me, which was the design and implementation of this project was not focused on people, but on suppliers, companies to take advantage of it. Well, that says it. Yeah, very beautiful wording. The article demonstrates, obviously, how an elite unit, financed, trained, equipped for fighting cross-border crime, was used to suppress client dissidents in Senegal, and right under the eyes of the EU, who paid for it. It is a great example on how EU agencies, which are supposed to uphold European values, failed to do exactly that, and wasted millions of euros of taxpayers' money. So, thanks to Andre and José, who knew how to EU funds, and wrote an article about it, how EU funds were abused and used to suppress human rights and the right to protest. So the impact is what we hear a lot, and I can say there was a follow-up headline, which I'm very happy to read, says that the European Parliament indeed did an investigation after the article published by Al Jazeera and pro-Causa. So that is what is, at least in a way, of an impact. I do hope that the next article we're going to read is like how the EU stopped funding human rights abuse, or Spain took action against the civil guard. Well, we're going to see, but at this point I'm going to say I stopped dreaming of what will be the next article, and we're going to hand over the award to Andrea and Jose.
We're going to say a few words as well. So thank you for this award. And we're very happy to be here tonight amongst a number of organizations and friends, including the IJ4EU grantee community, Por Causa, the European Press Prize community, Lighthouse Report, Solomon, and all the other organizations that work on collaborative journalism. I don't mention them by chance, it's because we actually, thanks to this collaborative network, that's how me and Jose met. We met in Mauritania while working for Desert Dumps, which is another project nominated tonight. And that's how we met each other, and that's how we stumbled upon this story during the research for the other investigation. I think impact is a very elusive kind of term and goal for journalists. It can be discouraging, a discouraging way to measure the value of journalists' work. And yeah, sometimes as journalists we feel responsible to create impact and for our work to create changes. But I think we shouldn't forget that the responsibility lies with those in power. They are the ones who can actually make changes. And our role is to inform, to investigate, and share with the public what's happening so that the authorities actually do something about it. So yeah, luckily in this case, we did have some sort of impact. The EU Commission opened an investigation after the EU Parliament asked them to. The Spanish Congress debated this issue in the plenary, and Amnesty International asked the Spanish government to stop the transfer of equipment to to Senegal. In Senegal, the story went viral. There was about over 500,000 interactions and views on X. All the Senegalese media picked it up. And I think the most important impact for us was that a local media, an investigative outlet, picked up the story and then did another investigation to show further abuses by the Garci unit that we covered. So that is why for us accountability is key, and I think this investigation shows once again that the consequences of the EU's goal to strengthen the security apparatus in African countries to stop migration, it has consequences, and these consequences are often, the strategy comes at a cost, and that cost is human rights and democracy. And I'll leave Jose also thank you.
Take this one. Hi, everyone. I'm going to read because my memory is not that good. I'm going to say thank you, first of all. Especially thanks to the sources, because, you know, they trusted us, and they are the ones who took real risk by speaking to us. You know, without them, this investigation will not exist. I want to emphasize this. Some people risked their jobs, even their physical integrity. This is a very sensitive topic. Unfortunately, this is still happening, but we keep working. I also want to thank, from all my heart, Por Causa's community. Por Causa is a very small organization. We rely on small individuals giving us 5 months every month. I invite you to become members of that community. Thank you, really. Of course, thank you to the IJ4EU and also to iMEdD for welcoming us every time with so much love and for this recognition. Let me say something just to finish. You know, guys, investigative journalism requires time, requires resources as well. And Above all, I want to talk about the importance of teaming up to do this kind of investigations. You know, journalism, sometimes we are super individualistic approaches. That doesn't work anymore. This story was only possible because we crossed borders as journalists. Andrei, he was reporting from Senegal. I was reporting from Madrid, Spain. And our editor in Al Jazeera, Eromo, who is not here, but I sent him kisses. He's a Nigerian amazing journalist, and he's based in Ivory Coast. And you know, we tied it all together, and it worked. That mix of perspectives was essential to understanding how European policies play out far from Brussels. And finally, let me say in a small word, let's keep supporting this kind of journalism and these spaces so that more investigations like this can come to light. Just to finish, next week we have the International Congress of Migration Journalism. You are all more than welcome to Merida City, which is a beautiful place. And this year, actually, we will focus on how can we improve the coverage of border externalization, which is a very difficult issue. That's all. Thank you, Efaristo, and see you in Merida. Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations from my side to you too, Jose and Andre. A truly powerful investigation, truly deserving this recognition. And time for our first winner. For that, I'm delighted to welcome Mira Milosevic, the Executive Director of the Global Forum for Media Development. If you have ever tried to get media organizations from different corners of the world to work together, you know it requires both diplomacy and stamina. Mira has both. She is in the forefront of building networks, making cross-border collaboration between organizations possible. Mira, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Deniz, and to whole IJ4EU team for doing such a great work. And I mean, I'm so honored to have been on this jury, and I'm in awe of the work that all the teams that have been selected as candidates this year have done. I feel better informed after reading those 36 investigations than after a year of reading different newspapers, news outlets, sites, podcasts, and other sources that we all use. So, and of course, I'm most honored to be here to present our first Impact Award to a remarkable cross-border team behind investigation Deadly Prices. Let me tell you something about our thinking, why we thought that this investigation deserves this prize, and why it was just a notch above the other investigations. It raises one of the most important questions of social justice today. Why even, and poses a question, why even in one of the most powerful single markets, such as European Union, where medicines are approved for all, patients equally, but somehow patients in some countries still have to fight, and some even leave home and change countries to access life-saving treatments. This reporting brought together 29 journalists from 23 countries, 23 outlets across 18 countries. And they uncovered how pharmaceutical companies exploit Europe's opaque negotiating and pricing system. Their creative, but really rigorous and strict investigative methods, persistence and hard work They looked through many corporate reports, hospital billing data, leaked contracts, and insider testimonies, linked all of this together to reveal for the first time estimated prices for some of the new innovative and critical medicines in 9 EU member states. And so these new therapies, many for cancer, rare diseases, are priced so high that patients in some of the smaller member states were simply locked out. And this is the example that the cystic fibrosis drug Kaftrio became the emblem of this inequality. And while children and young people are mostly users of this medicine, children in Germany and France could get those from public health services. Those in Lithuania, Hungary, or Cyprus, for instance, had to crowdfund or even move countries to have access to medicine that allows them to have better quality of life, live longer, and for some of them to survive. And so the impact of this investigation has been profound. Within weeks, the European Commission reversed the decision on some vital cancer drugs. Months later, Lithuania finally started reimbursing Kaftrio. And across Europe, it has started debates around transparency, fairness, and the ethical responsibilities of the pharmaceutical industry. And recent legal changes have finally began to open the door to greater transparency in drug pricing and moved Europe closer to a true single market for medicine. Also for me, the impact of this investigation and investigations into pharmaceutical and medical device sector is not abstract. My husband's life was saved by a similar investigation a couple of years ago, so I know personally the kind of difference that this kind of journalism can make for families. And this is journalism in its most vital, exposing hidden systems of power and market failures, and telling human stories and amplifying the voices of those most affected. And as I said, in this story, it was children and young people. And it was humans telling stories about humans. We talk a lot about AI and tech stack and tech solutions, and AI and tech will never be able to tell the stories without humans talking to other sources and creating the storytelling. And so for its courage, finally, its rigor, its exquisite storytelling, and its undeniable impact on the lives of patients across Europe and hopefully other regions that will follow this trail, it is my huge privilege to present the Impact Award to the team behind Deadly Prices.
Deadly Prices, winner of the 2025 IJ4EU Impact Award. Why do life-saving medicines stay out of reach? Investigate Europe and its partners uncovered how Big Pharma uses secrecy, patents, and lobbying to keep costs high. Governments outplayed, patients left waiting, health budgets broken. Big Pharma profits soar. A cross-border expose demanding answers from a system that puts shareholders before lives. Relentless investigative rigor that sparks accountability across nations.
Hello. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Thanks very much. It's an incredible honor. I'd just like to start by thanking, or by congratulating actually, all the journalists working in Gaza or from Gaza. They deserve all our respect. This investigation, Deadly Prices, actually started here in Athens. when an insider introduced me to the world of secret medicine pricing. It was not a technical issue, it was deeply political. The pharmaceutical industry is strong-arming our states. So with Investigate Europe, we set out to try and find these prices. Here's a warning, do not try this at home. It's impossible. There's very strict non-disclosure agreements. You cannot find the prices written down on a piece of paper. But if you do combine open data, then there is a chance to actually see what's going on. And what we did find out is indeed that weaker countries pay more than stronger countries, even inside the European Union. Now, this topic remains extra hot because Donald Trump is forcing down prices in the United States. And the industry is pushing to make up for it, to compensate by increasing profits in Europe. So this means that the state negotiators, the officials, the scientists who talk to us, whom we met during the investigation, they'll now be under even more strain. They'll be isolated behind closed doors, facing even more pressure if nothing changes. So this award is for them. It's for the people who know industry blackmail firsthand, and for those who strive to defend our healthcare budgets and our patients. I'm grateful to all the colleagues who made this possible at Investigate Europe and beyond, including our Greek outlet, Reporters United. So the one and only Maxence Peignet, Manuel Rico, Ingeborg Eliassen, Maria Maggiore, Nicolas Leodopoulos, Chris Matthews, Lorenzo Buzzoni, and last but not least, IE founder Harald Schumann. Without them, none of this would have been possible. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we didn't exclusively make this on our own. There were many people who accompanied us in the journey that this investigation was, and I think they also all deserve their credit. First and foremost, there's NDR, WDR, and Süddeutsche Zeitung, which helped us from the beginning in conceiving and then developing this investigation, which we were fortunate enough to publish with a number of media partners across Europe, from the Portuguese RTP to the Polish Gazeta Wyborcza. At the center of this investigation was also a data collection where we looked at where are these innovative medicines available and where not. And we would not have been able to do that if it wasn't for the media partners across Europe that helped us in collecting this data. And I just want to give them a short shout out. It was ULE in Finland, Truth in the Netherlands, Investigace in the Czech Republic, the Jan Kuciak Investigative Center in Slovakia. For Slovenia and Croatia, it was Ostro. In Romania, it was Snoop and the freelance journalist Andre Petre. It was Delphi Estonia, Delphi Latvia, and 15 Min. So a round of applause also for them. And yeah, I guess you don't get so often the chance to stand on a stage like this, so I also want to use it to say that I guess we're all kind of at an inflection point right now in history, and what we're doing will matter for generations to come. So while independent media is under threat, I think it's important that we all stand together and keep going, even though sometimes it's difficult, collaborating across borders and working with partners, even though sometimes maybe we have to learn a lot from each other. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Deadly Prices is about more than numbers. It's about patients, real people. I'll give you an example on what Mira was just explaining. One story that really stayed with us is that of a 3-year-old girl called Milda. She's from Lithuania, and when we met her mom, she didn't know if she would live to become an adult, because in her country, she could not access the life-saving medicines she needed to fight cystic fibrosis, a chronic disease she was born with. We discovered why. The drug maker was sending Lithuania an extremely high price, way higher than what other European wealthier countries were paying. After our investigation was published, the authorities in Lithuania managed to negotiate a much better price, and Milda finally got access to her medication. Today, she's growing up just like any other child. This shows what our work is really about. We don't just publish stories, we track impact. We follow up with authorities, we monitor policy changes, and make sure our reporting leads to real, tangible change. That's why this award is so meaningful for us, for Milda, and for all those whose lives depend on transparency and accountability. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and congratulations for this truly impactful investigation for many, many people's lives, a truly impactful human story. Unfortunately, our next jury member cannot be here with us in Athens tonight. He's Paul Corona Galicia, and we truly miss his presence. But he sent us his words, and I would not want you to miss on those words. Paul is a writer and an investigative journalist at the Financial Times. He is also something of an IJ4EU Impact Award jury veteran for the second time this year. He is back to make the decision, but not to attend, unfortunately. In his stead, I have the honor of inviting my dear colleague, Olga Komorova, who is the communications officer at ECPMF. She will read Paul's speech.
Thank you, Deniz. What happens when a war zone becomes a near total blackout for independent reporting, and those still reporting are themselves under fire? Coordinated by Forbidden Stories with newsrooms across Europe and beyond, the Gaza Project set out to answer this question that should concern us all. Since the 7th of October, the Israel-Gaza war has been the deadliest conflict on record for journalists. Forbidden Stories and partners analyzed nearly 100 cases of journalists and media workers killed in Gaza, and further cases in Gaza and the West Bank where the press were allegedly targeted, threatened, or injured. Their work points to a chilling pattern. What they used is a model of collaborative cross-border reporting, a consortium of roughly 50 journalists from 13 organizations combining European and regional partners to publish across multiple countries. With foreign reporters largely limited to escorted visits, the team worked remotely, interviewing more than 120 witnesses, consulting around 25 ballistics, weapons, and audio experts, including earshot, preserving evidence of a shared platform, and corroborating accounts with high-resolution satellite imagery. They worked with Bellingcat to turn drone footage shot by Gazan journalists into 3D models of Ashati and Jabalia, letting readers see the destruction and the vantage points from which those journalists worked. And the findings are stark. According to the project's count, at least 40 journalists and media workers were killed at home. At least 14 were wearing press vests when they were killed, injured, or allegedly targeted. At least 18 journalists were killed, injured, or targeted by drones. And 6 buildings housing media offices were completely or partially destroyed. The Israel Defense Forces, for their part, deny intentionally targeting journalists. Impact is not always a court ruling, policy change, or political event. Sometimes it is clarity, meticulous reconstructions that force a public reckoning and restore the human detail that blackout conditions try to erase. That is impact, and it is ongoing. For its methodological rigor under extreme constraints, its innovative use of satellite analysis and photogrammetry, its collaboration across borders and newsrooms, and its commitment to accountability when accountability is hardest. The IJ4EU recognizes the Gaza project with the Impact Award.
For outstanding investigative work that shines a light where few dare to look. The Gaza Project, winner of the 2025 IJ4EU Impact Award. The deadliest conflict for journalists in recent history. In Gaza, press vests are the target. 50 reporters from 13 newsrooms investigated nearly 100 cases of media workers killed or injured. Unable to enter Gaza, they traced bullets, mapped GPS data, and consulted experts. Their findings reveal a chilling pattern of attacks, challenging official denials.
Thank you. And before giving the mic to my colleagues, I wanted to say a few words on behalf of Forbidden Stories. First of all, of course, I would like to thank the jury first. It's a great honor for Forbidden Stories to have two of our investigations as finalists this year. The other investigation that has been shortlisted is the Baku Connection Project. And tonight, our thoughts are going to Sevinch, Ulvi, Mahamad, and other members of Absas Media who are still behind bars for doing their job. So we will not give up, and we are thinking of you guys. Thank you. I want to thank all our Gaza project partners. I'm so proud you are there with me. If you needed an example of something that only a collective effort can accomplish much more than dozens of individual projects, here it is, the Gaza Project. Thank you to Arij, thank you to Paper Tray Media, thank you to The Guardian for those initial discussions we had in Amman, in Arij, on December 23. I'm thinking as well tonight to Mahmoud Albesos. Mahmoud was working first for the Gaza Project. He was using his drones from the sky of Gaza to show us the destruction of the Gaza Strip. A few days later, after the filming for us, he was filming for another organization, a humanitarian convoy, and he was killed by a bomb. I'm thinking of Mahmoud tonight and his family. I would like also to give a special thanks to Walid Bratawi. Walid is a Palestinian journalist who worked with us on this project and who has lost many of his friends and colleagues. I know that this project has been very difficult for you, Walid, and I'm grateful for your professionalism and your commitment. None of this would have been possible without the fantastic team at Forbidden Stories. Thank you to my entire team. For 8 years now, every day of our life, we have been committed to continuing the work of those who lost their life to keep us informed. It's thanks to the professionalism and commitment of 50 journalists involved in the Gaza project that we were able to investigate the targeting of journalists in Gaza by the Israeli army. Like the day when Fadi al-Wadi lost his legs after being shot by a sniper drone. We coordinate a strong open source investigation so we can tell, using 3D reconstruction, how Fadi was tracked, targeted, and wounded by a sniper drone. Fadi then had to wait 128 days to be evacuated. Another key findings of this investigation, the Gaza project, was how we proved that the Israeli army have been shooting intentionally on the AFP building. Despite their deniers, we were able to prove that. Our investigations are often complicated, as you know, but always impactful. Collaboration brings us protection, resources, and impact. I can tell you tonight how proud I am and grateful I am to this unique group. A group of German, of British, of French journalists, but as well Palestinian and Israeli and many other journalists from many nations. We did it. And to all the ones who say and repeat with cynicism that there is no real journalist in Gaza, our answer to them is the following. Yes, there are journalists in Gaza, and they are dying every day. Yes, they are journalists in Gaza, and they are starving. And despite that, they still risk their life to keep us informed. Yes, there are journalists in Gaza, but more and more are getting killed. 2 days ago, the BBC, AFP, and others released a video. I'm sure you have seen it. A video that is summarizing the situation quite well. The video says, history is told by those who report it. We cannot look at ourselves and let our colleagues die without doing our work. That's not possible. We cannot be satisfied with a statement from the Israeli government, nor those from Hamas who committed the terrorist attack on October 7. Recently, experts from an inquiry committee from the United Nations had just concluded that a genocide is underway in Gaza. It is more than urgent to let us go inside the Gaza Strip. We need to do our work independently, without fear or favor. More than 200 journalists now have already died since October 7. The danger we are facing here is huge. The danger is the following: the normalization of a death of journalists in our societies. At Forbidden Stories, we will keep fighting hard against that normalization to make sure it will not happen. We will keep sending a signal to the enemies of the free press, telling them killing the journalist won't kill the story. Thank you.
Hey, I don't really have a lot to add. I just want to say, for us at Paper Trail Media, this has been the hardest project that we've done since we do this. And yet, what our colleagues in Gaza are doing every day is like a million times harder. So we have so much respect for them, and we owe them this project. Thank you.
I would like to thank Forbidden Stories, Paper Trail Media, and all the colleagues in the consortium for believing that Gaza journalists and targeting Gaza journalists is a fact and a reality, when many people around the world did not believe, and when Israel denied this. That was very, very early when we discussed this in December 2023. And the Gaza Project investigations went out for the first time in June 2024, and again, and we never thought that we need to do it again in March 2025. The Palestinian journalists in Gaza, as we are speaking now, are facing the Israeli tanks coming to Gaza City and leveling down every single neighborhood, everything in every single neighborhood. I just called our journalists 3 days ago, and some of them decided they don't want to leave Gaza City because the people who left 1 year ago, 6 months ago, are still with no hope in the southern of Gaza, in tents and in starvation. They decided they don't live in their homes anymore. They live in damaged buildings, and they are waiting for the tanks to come, bomb the buildings, including them. They said, we don't want to leave because there's no hope in leaving. It's very difficult to talk to the journalists on the ground every single day. And I salute our executive editor, Huda Osman, who has been talking to them every single day for the last 2 years, along some of our editorial team. This project is for them, for history. The genocide cannot be accepted. With great investigative journalists like you, with human beings everywhere, we should stop Israel targeting journalists and Israel doing genocide, and we shouldn't allow it to happen in anywhere around the world. Thank you very much.
I cannot imagine a more important and meaningful investigation for press freedom today, or for freedom in general. And finally, to reveal our third winner, I'm delighted to welcome Maribel Königer, Director of Journalism and Media at Erste Foundation. Maribel has long championed investigative journalism across Central and Eastern Europe. That is, Maribel has journalism's back, and tonight she's here to announce our third and final winner.
Thank you. Well, it's not easy to speak after the speech we just heard, but there are more fantastic stories, actually. And I'm now truly honored to introduce the last of the three winners, they are all equal winners, of this evening. And I'm also delighted to celebrate this wonderful conference with you and the Investigative Journalism for Europe Impact Award here in Athens. And again, we have this word Europe in the award. And we heard already that European values can play a role in our honorable mention. What do these values mean today to us? The investigation we are now honoring forces us to face this question with a painful clarity. The cross-border investigative project Desert Dump was led by Lighthouse Reports in collaboration with 37 journalists from 11 countries. So the story was published across 30 media outlets, including The Washington Post, Le Monde, Der Spiegel, El País, Intifada, Enas, IRPI, Joe, and IMEdD. And it uncovered a harrowing truth that under the guise of migration management, the European Union has knowingly financed and enabled the racial profiling, detention, and forced displacement of black migrants in North Africa. This is not a story of isolated abuse. It shows a system in which people, some with legal status, some seeking refuge, were arrested based on the color of their skin, loaded onto buses, and abandoned in the desert. No food, no water, no protection, left to face extortion, torture, sexual violence, and death. The team's year-long investigation revealed that this practice, euphemistically hidden behind bureaucratic language, was not only known in Brussels, it was supported with European funds, vehicles, intelligence, and security cooperation in Morocco, Mauritania, and Tunisia. The jury was anonymously in its recognition of the excellence and the significance of this work because of the intensity of international collaboration from local level to global, because of the reach of the publications, and of course because of the journalistic professionalism. The investigation is based on first-hand observations by journalists, analysis of visual evidence, geospatial mapping, internal EU documents, interviews with 50 migrants who were victims of deportation, as well as interviews with European, North African officials and other familiars with the operations. But there is still more than that. This story changed the debate. The horrible term desert dump has entered the vocabulary of NGOs and policymakers. We were also impressed by the impact. This is an impact award. Within hours of publication, EU commissioners felt compelled to respond publicly. Within days, members of the European Parliament were demanding answers from their commission. Within weeks, the European Commission, well, denied complicity, while national governments in the Netherlands and Spain faced scrutiny from their own legislators. Survivors have used the investigation to support asylum claims, and civil society now is mobilizing, petitioning, debating, demanding accountability.
This is what investigative journalism does at its best. It exposes what is hidden, it proves what is denied, it gives voices to those silenced, and it holds power to account. And in this case, it reminds us Europeans that the values we invoke must also apply where people are desperately trying to reach their sphere of influence. So on behalf of the jury, with all our hearts, congratulations to the winners of Desert Dam.
For courageously exposing Europe's complicity in human rights violations, with Europe's support, North African nations Push Immigrants into the Desert receives the IJ4EU Impact Award in 2025. Tens of thousands of migrants abandoned in the desert. EU provided vehicles, EU funded surveillance, EU cash. 8 media outlets teamed up to track expulsions in Morocco, Mauritania, and Tunisia. Men, women, and children left to die of hunger, heat, or violence. A stark expose of Europe's complicity in human rights abuses beyond its borders.
Good evening. Good evening. Let's present the team. Beatriz da Silva, Jose Bautista, Andreas Popovisi, and I'm Salahdin Al-Maizi from Morocco, from NAS. I'm behalf on the team of the Lighthouse Report, Le Monde, Intifada from Tunisia, RP Media, El País, Der Spiegel, and NAS from Morocco. I will say some words about this. I'm very happy tonight to receive these awards with Lighthouse Report and our team partners. It's a joyful moment, and allow me to share with you my thoughts tonight. First of all, it was said by the jury, I think now for our country in the South, the policy of the European Union of externalization of the borders, but also violation of human rights. That was the main conclusion of this investigation. Now, human rights violation are committed by European money and European public fund. But also I will share with you this experience of cross-border journalism for us as a global a journalist from a global South. It's easier said than done, especially for a small newsroom. At its heart, it's not journalism, it's not only seeking for information and searching for the truth. At its heart of this new way of doing journalism, it's a balance of power and resources between journalists in the South and the North. A balance that remains, in my point of view, largely unbalanced. For us, as a small editorial team working in a country in the South, with this share of censorship, self-censorship, and risk inherent to our profession, the choice was made not to be just a fixer in the service of a journalist from the global North. Whenever the opportunity arises, we try our best to be journalists in our own right, doing journalist work in a spirit of sharing. I say this word humbly because I learn a lot from my colleagues and the colleagues of Lighthouse. A lot of my fellow foreign journalists on the topic I have been working on for more than 10 years. And also I learn about my country through them. Thank you for Lighthouse Report and all the team and all friends, colleagues, comrades. Thank you to my team, a team of NAS who work in Morocco in dangerous situations sometimes, for their generosity and commitments. And finally, Rawan say some words about the important words about Gaza, but let's say it again and again and again. Journalists in Gaza exist, Palestinian journalists exist. Finally, my thoughts Finally, my thoughts go to my friends and fellow Palestinian journalists, the journalists in Gaza, the 220 journalists murdered in this genocide war against the Palestinian people and against Palestinian journalists. My thoughts go to Anas Sharif, peace on him, and all my comrades who died for the right of information. Shame on the states that remain silent in this moment. Even our Arab states, European states, and America, of course, about the largest cemetery of journalists in the world, Gaza. Thank you. Shukran.
I don't have much to add, but that's okay because Salah did a brilliant job. I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of all our team. We're a very small group up here, but we were over 40 journalists who work on this. And I also wanted to say thank you to the over 50 survivors who spoke to us, many times at risk their own lives. And briefly, just to mention the name of Abdou. He was one of the first people who was very brave to speak to us and who wanted to speak out and say his name. He's a young man from Senegal who lived in Rabat. He spent a lot of time indoors because he was fearful of going out because of the dozens of times he had been picked up on the street, rounded up and dumped in the desert or in remote locations. He is one of many. A few months ago, Abdou finally reached Spain, which was his dream, but sadly, he has since passed. This is just to say that there are many Abdous out there, and whilst it's brilliant to get this recognition, there's still a lot of work to be done. So this is a testament to collaboration. There's a lot of brilliant journalists out here, so if you're interested, please pick up this story, work on follow-ups, collaborate with us, because the work is really never done. Thank you.
Congratulations to all the winning teams of 2025 IJ4EU Impact Award. What an honor to share the stage with you, to celebrate this moment with you, and to hear the strong messages that you share from this stage. You have shown great courage, strength, and the true meaning of impact tonight. I said it once, I'll say it again, it's a true inspiration. And I would like to once again thank to the jury for their tireless work. It is an absolute honor and pleasure to work with you, to have gone through this process together with you. Thank you for being here, thank you for your dedication. And well, we are about to conclude the ceremony, but one last duty. We are missing the presence of one more person tonight. It's our managing director, dear Andreas Lam, who very much wanted to be here, but cannot make it, unfortunately. So in his stead, I would like to invite my other dear colleague, Elena Rodina, who is coordinating the Media Freedom Rapid Response at ECPMF. Her words will mark the end of this ceremony and the IJ4EU Uncovered Conference.
Dear friends, colleagues, so I'm here tonight with you to close this ceremony. As Deniz said, usually this would be the role of my boss, Andreas Lam, but he had to cancel his participation in the last minute. So he asked me to step in and send you, and especially the winners, his warmest greetings and congratulations. So, let me begin by congratulating the winners of the 2025 IJ4EU Impact Award and every team that submitted their work. The courage and quality of this year's investigations once again show us how vital cross-border journalism is. At ECPMF, we witness every day that press freedom is under threat. This year's winners stand as testimony to the risks faced by journalists across Europe and beyond, not least those who worked on the Gaza project and continue to report under immense danger. Each of these projects lays bare wrongdoing, exposes corruption, and challenges injustice, from inequalities in access to life-saving medicines in Europe, to the double moral standards in so-called migration management, to threats to demographic participation beyond Europe's borders. These stories hold power to account, inform the public, and hopefully in doing so, strengthen democracy. These achievements remind us why independent journalism must be protected and supported. Most importantly, this year's winners show us that collaboration doesn't only strengthen journalism, it also amplifies its impact. This is why the IJ4EU consortium is thrilled to keep supporting bold cross-border projects for the next 2 years. At this point, I would like to thank everyone who contributed to this year's award. Our independent jury for their thoughtful and tireless work, the students at Leipzig University who carried out the exhaustive evaluation of nominations, and all those who supported the process behind the scenes. I also want to thank our partners, the International Press Institute, the European Journalism Center, and Arena for Journalism in Europe, as well as our donors and the European Commission for making the IJ4EU program possible. And of course, a special thanks to iMEdD for hosting us here in Athens and for creating the space to celebrate the cross-border journalism together. So this brings the IJ4EU Impact Award Ceremony and our Uncovered Conference 2025 to a close. Thank you again for being a part of the IJ4EU Impact Award 2025 and for continuing to support cross-border investigative journalism. Now, I would like to invite all the winners and jury members back to the stage for one final photo together, and everyone else here to join us in celebrating them with applause.
You stay. I can't stand, no worries.